Hey guys, what's going on? It's Pros and Cons, first episode, and I really like all the good feedback I've been getting. Thank you so much. And the first episode, if you haven't seen the title already, Duel Seeger. Duel Seeger won the polls, or whatever you want to call them. It was a little bit of a tie between Duel Seeger and Dragonites, but Duel Seeger had 2 comments on the video, so I count that as another like. So Duel Seeger is one, and basically Duel Seeger is the big boss card of the Ancient World deck, because really Wild Dragons don't have much, so Seeger's the main deck. So Duel Seeger has 3 forms: Duel Seeger Martial Arts Dragon, Spartan, and Tempest Enforcer. Now I'll count that as a good pro. Seeger's forms are so strong. 8,000, 2 crit, 8,000, then 10 to 10, and then 12 to 3, 12, and triple attack, and double attack, and penetrate, and the first 2 forms have Soul Guard, and it's just so good. Like, they do so much work because they can constantly attack in their big walls, and then when you back them up with your spells and other such things in the deck, you can have a really good thing going. But a huge con is being gauge heavy. Now the impact and all 3 forms of Seeger all cost 3 gauge. So potentially 12 gauge is being used just to use normal cards in a deck, which is pretty bad. So that's a really bad con. But the deck makes up for it in gauge gain. The gauge gain in the deck is really great. You have Dragon Emperor Legend, which lets you draw a card, gain a life, and gain a gauge, which is really great because draw power, of course, is needed in a deck. And we got Rise and Fall of Dragons, which you pay 2 life, and then you gain 4 gauge. And then for Boca, which is a monster, but if you discard it while you have a size 3 on field, you gain 2 gauge. So you can possibly, in 1 turn, you can get 7 gauge. So it's not really hard to bring out the Seeger forms. But the Seeger forms are dead without the first one. A really bad con. Now, Seeger is good, but the 2 forms rely on the first form even being out. Just have 2 forms, Spartan and Tempest Enforcer in your hand. You cannot even summon them. You just have dead cards in hand until you draw the first copy, which is really, really bad. So you really can't even bring out your boss monster because you need it in your hand. You need the first form. So that is a huge con in the deck. Another huge con could be the life lowering. By life lowering, I mean cards that their cast costs are usually paying life. Now with Buddy Gift and Dragon Dreams and even Dragon Emperor Legend, you gain back life, and so is the same thing as the Rock Dragon Emperor, which lets you gain 2 life if you control a size 3. So life replenishing is also a good pro. So the deck kind of balances itself out with its certain support cards and its boss card and other things. And another great thing about the deck is the draw power. With Divine Dragon Creation, which is a spell card, when you pay 2 life, you get to draw 2 cards, but you only activate 1 of that card per turn. Same thing with the Dragon Emperor Legend, which just you draw a card, gain a life, and gain a gauge, but you're going to use 1 copy of that per turn. But these cards let you combo so well and get you into like your Seegers if you really need them, so it could help you when you don't have that Seeger in hand. So you can really get to your Seeger by going through 3 cards in your deck already. So it's really, really good when it comes to that, because you can get into those other Seeger copies if you need them. But at best, I'll count this as a pro just because it is okay. The deck has meh level monster removal. By this, I mean the removal so far only gets rid of like Dragon Thunder and Dragon Flame Cascade only get rid of monsters that have 2,000 or less power or 2,000 less defense, which is primarily size 1s, but if it just said size 1s, then I would have liked that effect, but it is relying on the defense and power of cards, which is just not a good thing to rely on. But it can be good in situations like you can get rid of Bronze Shield, it can get rid of Thousand Rapier, it can get rid of Gravehorn / Bear Trap Fang Dragon, so it gets rid of a good number of things in Dragons. It gets rid of almost constantly everything in Magic World, which is one of its worst matchups, so that's another con. I know what you're thinking. How could weak-ass Magic even deal with Ancient World? Well, because of their card Oops. Oops may have seemed like a bad card, but it can return a Dual Seeker to the hand. And with Lifelink, the first form will already inflict 5 damage to you. Then the second form, Spartan, will inflict 8 damage to you. And dare I say, if you have Tempest Enforcer out, you'll lose the game immediately. So that's really bad. Magic Worlds can absolutely shut down Seeker by not even destroying him, by putting him back in your hand. And if it's not Tempest Enforcer, you're taking a buttload of damage, and then you have to bring back out the form in order for the deck to even function. Because, once again, another con of the deck, Seeker is a crutch. It straight up is a crutch in the deck, because you have to constantly bring out Seeker for your monsters that aren't Seekers to do their effects, because most of them have discard effects, which make them very useful, since if you have out Seeker, these cards can do lots of things. Nullify, gain you gauge, gain life, protect Seeker, something like that. So the monsters become really good spells along with the good spells in the deck. So that's a pro. But the deck has a really bad defense without Seeker. Once again, Seeker is a crutch. It probably sounds like a same thing, but basically it's saying without Seeker, the deck has no defense. You don't have like a straight up nullifier that just if you have an open field. There's nothing like that. So the deck really gets hurt a lot if you don't draw into Seeker, unless you put out like the Rock Dragon Emperor as your defense, because he has 7,000 defense, but he has only 2,000 power and 2 crit. So the deck's defense is pretty bad without Seeker being on field. So it like I said, it relies on Seeker. Now, another really good pro that just basically came out is Raft Trigger. Raft Trigger is a single card, but it's so good, it's a pro. So, Raft Trigger is a really good spell. You target a monster anywhere on your field, and if it would be destroyed, it prevents the destruction, and the card gets counterattack. So, doing this with a Seeker, regardless of the form, you protect the Seeker, and you get to destroy a monster that tried to link attack, or a monster that tried to attack it, and one of the monsters that tried to link attack it. So Seeker could be even a bigger wall than before with Raft Trigger. So Raft Trigger is a really great addition to the deck. I hope many Ancient World players will play that card because it's very useful in lots of situations. Another good pro of the deck, easy wins. Now, what do I mean by easy wins? Easy wins means this deck can actually defeat many decks within a few turns. It can bring out Seeker first turn, you gain a life because he's probably your buddy, then you smack them for 2. And now they have to deal with this big wall. If they leave their center open, you can smack them for 2 again. And say you went for Boca, and you already charge and drew, then you for Boca, then you get 3 gauge. Then, if you wipe out their field and then do one more attack, you can potentially go for game right there with the impact, which is another pro. The impact is so good because all you have to do is have a size 3 on field, pay 3 gauge, and your opponent has to have no monsters, and you deal 4 damage. So you can go for just straight up 1 first turn attack with Seeker, then 2 double attacks, then you can win. And if you dare bring out Tempest Enforcer, 2 attacks from him, and almost guaranteed, because he has Penetrate, will immediately do 6 damage. And say they nullified one of the attacks. He has triple attack, so you can go for 1 more. So 6 damage could be guaranteed, and then you can just go for the impact. This card can make you go for game just as well as Gargantua, because it applies so much pressure and your opponent really has to deal with Seeger in the first place. So dealing with it is going to be hard already for them. So then just doing all that damage and then just beating them in final phase like a Gargantua, it's pretty great. Speaking of Gargantua, it can't do much against this deck. Gargantua Punisher requires your opponent to not have a center, and same as you. So Seeger is going to be in the center almost all the time. If it's not, something's wrong with you. Seeger is your main center and your main card. So if they can't even get rid of your center, they can't Gargantua you ever. Maybe they'll play Dragonic, but they have to pay 2 life. But how are they even going to do damage to you if you just keep keeping an 8,000 defense wall right in the center, and you're just constantly double attacking, smacking over their monsters, or smacking them for damage? It's a really powerful deck because the main boss card is good on its own, and then it even has backup in its other forms. Now, another thing is the size. There is no size 3 searcher. It does not come in a TCG as of now. If this would be out right now, you'd only have to pay 2 life and you can get a Seeger to your hand. Any form you want. So, it would be good in the deck, but it's not, so it's a con. Because it's not here yet. In Ancient World, has no size 0s. If the primary function of a deck is running size 3s, I wonder why there's no size 0s, but there's no size 0s, so we're pretty much just sitting on Seeger all game, and you don't have any little monster that can let you poke in for a little bit of 1 damage, 2 damage, or good power so you can smack over things, so Seeger doesn't have to keep dealing with it by wasting his double attack. So, size 0s would be really helpful, but there's none in the deck, so I count that as a con. Now, this deck has a lot of pros and a little bit less cons. So, the deck is fine. It's good. It's got a good wall going. It's kind of relying on the boss card, but the boss card can come in your hand due to the good draw power. So, my final verdict is the deck is not bad. Not bad at all. It can be semi-competitive if you want to. If you just got a good build and a good thing going for you, the deck can work just fine. Now, I want you guys to like this video, subscribe to Team Burning Infinity, and write in the comments what you want to see in episode 2. See you guys later. Joe and going out.